Welcome to the Sweaty Pillow. We have an extraordinary guest today. I refer to Dr. Haver as the Yoda wizard maestro of all things menopause. I was in attendance at a panel that Dr. Haver was on and recently, and brought to life the most crucial issues that we're dealing with as menopausal women right now. I learn every time I watch anything that you do, but I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
You're so welcome. So happy to be here.
I'm going to do an intro of just how accomplished you are and the work that you're doing, and I'm going to read it. I don't want to mess it up. Board certified OBGYN, certified culinary medicine specialist from Tulane, certified menopause specialist through the Menopause Society, founder of the Pause Life, reinventing menopause care, and I definitely want to talk about this. Massive community of 1.3 million devoted followers, developed the Galveston Diet, and your new book, The New Menopause, which is out by the time that we will have our podcast live. And I'll make you a bet on your favorite Prosecco next time we're in the same city together that this will be a New York Times bestseller because I got an early kind of peek at it and the content is going to really change women's lives.
That, accolades aside, my goal for writing the book was to able to give women agency in their own, give it back in their menopause health care, to educate enough so that they could advocate for themselves and advocate for, you know, legislative change and educational platform change and, really changing the health of women as we age.
I love that. One of my favorite recent TikToks of yours is you, it's the Get Ready with Me, but the intro is Get Ready with Me while we talk about all of the education that doctors go through when they're learning about menopause through med school. And then there's nothing, AKA, there is no education in menopause for doctors. So, why did you want to tackle menopause?
I was an OBGYN and very happy for many years in my job, delivering babies and doing surgeries and contraception and, all the traditional things OBGYN does. I was also a professor and I was teaching medical students and residents. I just love that. I was a program director. And sadly, it took until my own menopause transition and
Mm.
journey to realize I don't know anything. Like, like what I thought I knew is not nearly enough. And it was really taking my experience to social media and talking about it made me realize this is way bigger than we realized. So when
Mhm,
10,000
mhm.
people on social media ask you about frozen shoulder or itchy ears or insulin resistance or their cholesterol, and you start digging through the data and you're like, wait, there is a correlation. Like this is very clear, but no one's propagating that like on my end. Like the American Board of OB-GYN, who I recertify every year, doesn't put meaningful menopause articles in front of us every year so that we stay current. It's like the
Mm.
old cliche hot flashes and estrogen is more harmful than good. And all of that's been redacted. There's so much great information out there and we're just not there. It's not being shared with clinicians. It's not being taught in medical schools. It's not being taught in our training programs. And I'm like, I'm just one voice, but I'm going to yell as loud as I can so that we change this.
Do you see it changing and when?
So my daughter, who is a little radicalized now for menopause, um, is a first year medical student here in Texas.
Oh, amazing.
And she's kind of a one man band, but she's constantly calling me or letting me know when they talk about menopause and what they say and where they're covering women's health and how women are different than men and how we're going to have to approach diseases differently versus if you're male or female. And so I think we're about a generation away
Mm.
from it's her age that's going to be able to walk into their healthcare provider at 45, at 30, whenever they're going through perimenopause and have a reasonable, informed conversation about the future of their healthcare. But it's not happening right now.
It is, I refer to especially the heart disease aspect as
Mhm.
it's a 911 health issue. And it's remarkable in our generation, because I'm also in menopause, just what's happened from our mother's generation that just battled their way through it, suck it up, it's fine. just try and go to bed earlier or whatever their remedies were. To our generations, like, shit, this isn't great. I like the 189,000 symptoms, my different personality types in menopause. I mean, it is not great. So we have to wait another generation, but at least it's going to happen. Thank God.
Yes, I think, and then I think by the time that her, in 20 years, we will have options where menopause, therapeutic options that will just make menopause optional. Ways to
Okay.
extend the
Ooh.
life of the ovary now, with a
Mhm.
medication or some kind of combined therapy. Why is it that our ovaries age twice as fast as any other organ in our body? Why is we're born with all of our eggs and they run out by the time we're 51 on
Mhm.
average. And then we have to live 30 years without the benefit of our sex hormones. Men don't do that. They have some decline in testosterone, but nothing close to what we go through. And it's dramatically affecting our health. Yes, we're living longer than our male counterparts, but 20% of our lives is spent in poorer health than our male counterparts. So,
Mm.
yes, we're living longer, but we're living in nursing homes and with dementia. And that's
Right.
what my patients are coming to me saying, what can we do right now?
Mhm, mhm.
What habits do I need to adopt? What do I need to do? Because, my own mother has been on a walker for 10 years. My own mother now has severe dementia. And I don't want my kids to sit around and have to make the decisions that my children are, that my siblings and I are making for my mom. And she's not
Mhm.
having a good dementia. She's, my grandmother was this peaceful, kind of quiet, just, my mom's angry and bitter and, it's not easy. And so like I'm right now, I'm like, what can I do? And it has a lot to do with menopause, you know,
Mhm.
to decrease that risk as I get older.
It's so futuristic of you and innovative that you're putting out there that in the next generation we could be avoiding a lot of this altogether.
Mhm.
So that means there's universities all over the world, hopefully scientists that are working on something.
There's an explosion in industry and in research right now around menopause care because there's money. We have money and we're
Hmm.
willing to pay.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of pressure being put on governmental bodies. The Bidens just signed, a whole initiative for women's health. You know, when we need half of healthcare funding to go to women's health,
Hmm.
how diseases affect women.
Hmm.
Because the
Hmm.
way we're studying medicine now is basically how heart disease affects a man. And oh, by the way, maybe it'll help her too, you know, but she's hormonal, so that's going to confuse things. Let's leave her out of the study. I mean, that was 30 years of research. We're not
Hmm.
going to study her because her hormones might make it complicated. So let's just study men and rats and then apply it to women. And it's not working.
Amen, sister. Men and rats. That's giving us the the medical and the education that we need to get ourselves through hormones and menopause. It's just crazy. Off the hop, and I don't usually do this till the end, but I want to talk about, because it's so compelling, the resources that you have on the Pause Life,
Mhm.
because it is the most comprehensive toolkit of a place for women to go that synthesizes all the important information. So talk us through what you have and what you
So
recommend.
what I'm like most proud of is the menopause empowerment guide. It's 100% free. It's on our link in bio and our Instagram. It's on our website. And we email you a 14-page PDF full of links of medical research journal articles, questions to ask your doctor, how to schedule an appointment, what lab tests might be helpful, everything I could think of so that you could go and use your healthcare system and advocate for yourself. It's not a guarantee, but I've gotten so many letters and notes and saying how helpful it was. We have
Mm.
quizzes to help you figure out where you are in your menopause journey. We have things to help you figure out if the food you're eating might be inflammatory. We have a nutrition program through the Galeston Diet. We have supplements that that are just basic fiber, vitamin D, things that most women are deficient in this state of their lives.
Okay, so that is something that we are going to push out far and wide. What else we discovered on your site is a very rich in information 8 hours of a menopause summit that you did
Mhm.
that people can access, and that also will be fruitful of tons of
So
great insights.
I got this wild idea back when the influencers were doing their influencer trips, the beauty trips to Dubai
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And someone was like, "Where's the menopause trip?" And I was like, "They're like, you need to make one." So I thought, you know what? I'll do this menopause retreat. And I invited the menopause, all my friends who are doctors. and providers in the space, and Vonda Wright, orthopedic surgeon who does menopause care, and said, hey, let's go on this cruise and we'll bring 100 people with us. But we're going to film it and record it so that we can share it, and we had 2 full days of talks and lectures all about menopause care, HRT, breast cancer risk, orthopedic surgery, heart disease. We had a psychiatrist come, and it was phenomenal. But the best thing we did was we have a digital option because, only 100 people we could take with us on the cruise ship,
Right.
but we could offer it to everyone. So there's 8 hours of an intensive, and not just me talking, the best people I could find in the space.
That's huge. We will push that far and wide because that is a spectacular piece of education. Getting into some of the specifics that really connected with me when I saw your panel and when I'm watching your YouTube videos is the notion of inflammation and how that affects women's health. Can you talk to us about that?
So while we have estrogen in our bodies in normal levels, we have a certain time where we're not as inflamed. Estrogen is a powerful anti-inflammatory hormone. It gives us more resilience to things that could cause inflammation, aging, diet, toxins, exercise, all that. Estrogen is very protective of our blood vessels, of our brain cells, of our gut cells, and when those estrogen levels decline, we lose that resistance. And so things that may not have bothered you in the past, all of a sudden you're having hip pain, joint pain, headaches, nausea, you can't tolerate this food, this smells bad, And so we see a dramatic, not just with aging, we have kind of a linear increase of inflammation, of chronic inflammation, but when we add menopause to it, it becomes synergistic. So that curve for women goes up much higher and faster.
So it would be essential to do what we can to eliminate inflammation. And how do we do that?
I always start with nutrition. Make sure that you are eating foods that are packed with natural inflammation fighters. That's going to be your leafy greens, your fruits, your vegetables, your seeds, your nuts, heavy plants. And then avoiding foods that can cause inflammation. For some people, that may be dairy. I'm Cajun. We tend to handle dairy fine. For some people, that might be gluten. For some people, that might be, figuring out what your triggers are. We know that heavily processed foods high in more than 25 grams per day for sugar in a female is pretty much going to be inflammatory. So then added sugars, not sugars found naturally in fruits and vegetables, but things that are added in the cooking and processing, some artificial colors, dyes, everything in moderation. But people who are eating diets rich in processed meats, rich in the way that they put nitrates and nitrites in some of the meats, that can be really inflammatory for some people.
So how does the Galveston diet fit in? Tell us about
That's
the
kind of where I
diet.
started in this space.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my initial pain point, sadly, was vanity, and it was my weight gain. I probably was I was always been thin. I worked out to be skinny. I ate to be skinny. Skinny was healthy, and I judged people for not being skinny, and I was a horrible person. Okay. Until menopause hit me. And then I wasn't skinny anymore. And I was like, okay, I had gone through a lot of personal trauma. My brother had passed away. My dad was sick. My other brother got diagnosed with cancer, and all of that's happening. And I'm going through menopause, and I just kind of my life's in chaos. And I had 2 teenage daughters. My husband's working overseas. It was a zoo. And so I'm like, okay, that's why and certainly it was contributing. That's why I'm not sleeping. That's why I'm feeling bad. That's why. And I was in menopause and didn't realize it. It was my job. I was gaslighting myself. I did not even realize that I was fully menopausal until the hot flashes were undeniable,
Right.
And so when the grief was lifting from my first brother's death, actually it was my second brother's death. My first brother died when I was 9. I was like, okay, time to work out more, eat less. Let's get back to your old habits that are going to get you healthy, skinny again. And it wasn't working. It wouldn't work. And I was getting really regimented and having all these unhealthy behaviors. My daughters are watching me negative self-talk and weigh myself all the time and just craziness. And finally, my husband was like, hey, scientist, what do you tell the girls? When you can't keep using the same actions if you want a different outcome, if it's not working. So figure this out. So I went down the rabbit hole of nutrition studies, and the nutrition scientists were like, look, there's something to do with inflammation with aging. We know that. But there's also something really key with menopause. Here's a few articles to get you started, and then here's things we know that can help with inflammation. So I'm like going nuts, going down rabbit holes on all this data and like all this stuff about menopause I didn't understand and really know about inflammation, how estrogen, I didn't know estrogen was anti-inflammatory. I had no idea. And that was my job, is to be a menopause provider. And so then I decided to enroll in the culinary medicine program at Tulane, because I was like, I need more. I need a formal education program. So I did that. I learned so much. It was such a great course. And from that, the like tenets of the Galeston Diet were born. And it was a way for the menopausal person to approach her nutrition so that she could stay as healthy as possible, more than just calories in, calories out. It was the whole like nutrition over calories, and then the evolution came with strong over skinny, of let go of that number on the scale and focus on muscle mass. So I started reading Stacey Sims and Gabrielle Lyon, and realized that my muscle mass, I chipped away at my bone and muscle strength through all those years of just eating low cal and running all the time. And I mean, it was good for my heart, but I wasn't doing any favors for my muscles and bones. And that's what was going to keep me resilient as I got older. So I just totally switched my mindset. And then people on social media are like, what about my frozen shoulder? What about my this? What about my that? And so I'm researching, and all of a sudden it's like everything is related to menopause. I mean, it just seemed that way. Asthma, headaches, migraines, mental health changes. They all have studies documenting this. And I'm like, no one's talking about this. So I started talking about it.
So I really appreciate how honest, direct, and vulnerable you are in one statement by saying menopause affected me when I started to gain weight that wasn't normal. And that is the bitching that my girlfriends and I do over champagne at night, when it's like, well, we could probably manage everything else, but the fact that I can't fit in my jeans, that I can't live with. That's going to cause me to do something.
That for me, sadly, was the impetus of,
Right.
like, I wish I could be like, no, I just wanted to be healthy. No, girl, I just want to get back in my jeans. I mean, I've learned so much more. I don't, advocate for that anymore, but that was my journey. And that is why most people come to my office is,
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah. The other thing that you said that struck me just now was you didn't even know you were in menopause. What is it that we can do collectively as a community to educate whatever it is, the early 40s woman to be like, beware, this is coming. It's like you're about to run headfirst into a brick wall going 300 miles an hour.
Book.
How do we
And
prep?
that's why I wrote the book
Okay.
for, of course there's information for postmenopause and, but really I wanted it like what to expect when you're never going to expect again, just a handbook, a
Yes.
guide, let's demystify this. Let's normalize this. Let's understand why when you walk in your doctor's office, I go into the history of menopause, the history of menopause care, the women's health care, like how this all ended up where you have a 6% chance of walking into your OBGYN, your internal medicine, your family medicine doctor, and them knowing anything reasonable about menopause. 6%. That is going to be clinically significant or factual. If they know
God.
anything, it's old, outdated data that estrogen will kill you, and so that's the problem.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying, that's what my platform's all about now.
Is there anything preemptive? Let's just use numbers for the sake of expressing what I'm trying to. A 44-year-old woman is a year out from menopause. It's going to hit her. Is there anything preemptively she can do with her lifestyle, diet to get ready that the symptoms that she can ease into menopause
Yeah.
easier?
So
Okay.
your status of health as you go into the process is going to help. Now, even though I say this, you can have the most perfectly healthy person who's going to get her ass kicked, so I don't want anyone to feel bad that they did something wrong, that they had symptoms, but how your body adjusts to the loss of the hormones is going to go easier in general, the
Mhm.
healthier you are. So focusing on adequate protein intake, fiber intake, magnesium, vitamin D, like making sure your nutrition is on point, doing adequate exercise, both resistance training and cardio. Probably
Okay.
for most of us, cut back on the cardio and add in the serious progressive weight training,
Mhm.
for you to get stronger. It is impossible for you to get bulky. It's not going to happen. But I now weigh what I weighed when I freaked out and started the Galveston diet, journey, and it's all muscle.
Okay, it's body composition then.
My body composition
Yeah.
has completely changed. And it still
Okay.
freaks me out a little bit when I see the number on the scale. You still
That's
have that like that gut reaction because that's 50 years of, inbreeding and but then I have a body composition scale. So it's like your muscle is great. And so I'm like, okay.
right. And that is going to be the upstream on that is you feel great, you're the healthiest you can be. Will you sleep better? I mean, is there other
Maybe,
benefits?
but
Okay.
nothing is going to replace estrogen. Like
Okay.
that is the key, is giving your body back that hormone. Um, but if you choose not to, it's possible, but you're going to have to work a lot harder. And there's other
Mm,
pharmacologic things that might help with sleep, but then we have to go symptom by symptom.
right.
Estrogen is going to fix almost everything if it's
Mm,
caused from your menopause, from your estrogen decline. Um, so there are things that we can do. Nothing is going to extend the shelf life if you're ovary. You're kind of genetically predetermined when you're going to run out of eggs. You can speed that up if you smoke, if you have surgery,
mm,
if you have a hysterectomy, you'll lose 4 years. If you have one ovary out, you'll lose a year and a half. If you have your tubes tied, you'll lose a little bit of time. If you have chemotherapy, you're going to lose time. If you have, there's all kinds of stuff we can do to kill eggs and shorten that
mhm,
time.
mhm, mhm.
If you have a bunch of kids, you lose time. If you don't have any kids, you lose time. It's like, yeah. So if you have one or two kids, you don't shorten the life of your ovary. So it's crazy when you look at all the things that can affect it. But we don't know of a way to like extend yet. They're working on it, extend
Mm,
the life of the ovary.
love it. You said something about estrogen, and I want to touch on something that you said in the panel in Austin, but as it relates to what you were dealing with through your own journey and the passing of your brothers, and I'm terribly sorry about that. You talked about in Austin women's emotional state and depression, and the default in the medical community is to give them antidepressants. And I was one of those women early in menopause when my dad passed away, and I'm like, I can't get through the day. But coincidentally, my estrogen was doing a nosedive, all the things, and I was just prescribed low dose antidepressant. But you said very clearly in Austin, fix the estrogen problem, people. You don't need to be medicating. Tell us
Right.
more.
So the default in perimenopause, and the data is very clear. She's going to do better with if her depression is becoming exacerbated and she's not doing well on the medication she's done well on before, or if this is new, she is much better off getting estrogen than an SSRI.
Okay.
Now there is a place for SSRIs, of course there is, or an SNRI.
Mhm.
So there's a place for antidepressants, of course, but 25% of women are on them after the age of 60. It's 20% after the age of 40, 20. Okay. That's too high.
Mhm,
That's
mhm,
too
mhm.
high. So people are using SSRIs as default for menopause care, and that's a mistake.
What are the estrogen options for us to consider?
So when we look at, our sex hormones, we have estrogens, we have androgens, which includes testosterone, and then we have progestogens. Um, in my clinic and most of my practitioners, we default to estradiol. Why? It's dominant estrogen in the body. It's body identical. It was created by the ovaries. It's when we're in our healthiest state. So we're just trying to give you back what you're missing. There's different formulations. We can do oral and non-oral. So oral's a pill. Non-oral would be a troche, a vaginal ring, a cream, a gel, a spray, the pellet. There's FDA approved options, compounded options. So in my world, with the people I trust and the data we look at, we pretty much go with transdermal estradiol as our default, and then oral micronized progesterone as our default progestogen.
Thank you. Every minute of this conversation, you are providing a recipe and tangible takeaways that they're going to write down and these women are going to go figure out. And we have almost 100,000 women in our community that are going to get this recipe on how to fix their life. And it is so prescriptive. That's why you're so unbelievably popular globally. So I get it. We're really grateful. A couple more questions. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
Um, as a woman is starting to feel the things, whatever age she is, and she knows something's off,
Hmm.
What is the first thing that she should go do?
Find, if you think it's perimenopause, you can go to our website and take the menopause quiz,
Okay.
and it's a validated scoring system that is called the green scale, and basically
Hmm.
tells you the chance, what is the chances that this constellation of symptoms and their severity is related to my perimenopause. So that's kind of a
Okay.
clue in.
Okay.
Most doctors don't even know that thing exists. It's my screening test when they come into clinic.
Okay.
Then you want to find a menopause informed provider.
Okay.
So you can go to the Menopause Society at menopause.org, look for a certified provider. It's not perfect, but at least they took the test. You can go to our website and look for a testimonial and our recommended physicians list. It's totally free. You can go to one of the great telemedicine options that are out
Hmm.
there. Hormone
Hmm.
therapy, menopause care really works well in the telemedicine space. And these companies were developed seeing the gap and lack of knowledge that's out there. And they're all female entrepreneur led, which I love. And they're like, hey, we can provide this service. And so some take insurance, some don't. MIDI, Evernow, and Alloy Health are my three favorites that I've vetted. They don't pay me to say this. So, I just want people to go
Amazing.
get care.
Okay. Amazing. Um, do you recommend full blood panels?
So when a patient comes to me, I rarely check hormone levels. I don't need to. I
Oh,
listen to her
okay.
and I believe her. I don't need to,
Okay.
if you haven't had a period for a year and you're over the age of 45 and you used to have periods, you're menopausal.
Hmm.
I'm done. Okay. Now, what am I checking? I'm checking hemoglobin, hematocrit, blood count, electrolytes. I'm looking for nutritional markers. I'm looking for deficits in vitamin D. I'm looking for iron levels. I'm looking for autoimmune disease occasionally. I'm
Hmm.
looking for diabetes. I'm doing a lot of blood work, but rarely a hormone panel. If you know what
Okay.
you're doing, you don't need them. And in perimenopause, it is a hormonal zone of chaos.
Yeah.
We don't, a one day, one time blood, urine, saliva test, or even over 3 days is not diagnostic. Save your money. These are little factories where they're trying to get your money.
Hmm.
You can get so much better, wonderful, efficacious, safe care without having to spend all that money on unnecessary
Wow.
testing.
That's phenomenal advice. What else should we be investing in as women? You mentioned a body composition scale,
Body
supplements. What
composition
are
score.
some?
I would go and get a DEXA scan. If you're over the age of
Okay.
50 and you don't know what your bone density is, don't wait till
Mm,
65. Don't wait till you have
okay.
osteoporosis. You want to find out now. So go find the $100. It's $99 in my town to go to a local
Okay.
DEXA scanner and go get that. They'll also
Hmm.
tell you your body composition, how much visceral fat, subcutaneous fat, and muscle mass you have.
Okay.
So yeah, totally
Okay.
worth it. Then you know what your starting ground is, where you're at. Okay. So supplements are never going to take the place of good nutrition. Let me just, and I'm a
Mm,
doctor who sells supplements. So just, you know,
yeah, love that.
food first.
Okay.
You can't go to the drive-through and eat a bunch of processed stuff and expect a handful of supplements to negate those choices. That is not how it works. We supplement gaps in our nutrition. For
Hmm.
example, I always recommend vitamin D. It is so
Hmm.
hard to get enough in our diets to be effective. 80% of my patients are deficient. I routinely recommend it. Okay, you can safely take 4,000 IUs per day without worries of toxicity. Often I'm recommending magnesium, especially if she's struggling with sleep. I'm recommending fiber if you can't get 25 grams of diet in your fiber per day. I have my patients try to push to 32, 35 grams per day so the supplement can kind of top them. Actually, that's what I'm drinking in here. And then I recommend collagen as part of our osteoporosis prevention program, as well as creatine, weighted vest, and resistance training. So great studies done on osteopenia, osteoporotic, and in nursing home dwelling patients on how to get
Hmm.
their bone strength better. And you can grow muscle and bone at any age. You just have to work hard at it.
You've given us the formula. Honestly, it's just such a rich conversation in 30 minutes of the toolkit. We're going to check out the Pause Life, download, watch the 8 hours, get your new
Buy the
book.
book.
Um, it's very resource rich what you bring to our world, Dr. Haber, and we're so grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you.